All right. So good afternoon, everyone, and I'm happy to see you all today. And thank you guys for allotting time during your week to attend an ACE Commerce Philippines event. And I hope everyone's excited because we will be starting our webinar in a few minutes. Thank you. All right. So hi again, everyone, and welcome to this week's ACE Commerce event. And thank you for joining us for today's exciting webinar. So my name is Patrice, and I'm a community associate of ACE Commerce Philippines, a cross-border entrepreneur learning community. So before I call on our speaker for today's webinar, let me introduce you guys to what ACE Commerce is. So Amazing Cross-Border Entrepreneur Commerce, or ACE Commerce, is a global entrepreneur community that started in Indonesia. So ACE Commerce is for anyone interested in learning about building successful cross-border commerce by exploring opportunities in a wide range of commerce, as well as having amazing insights and guidance from awesome founders and entrepreneurs. And of course, we also strive to bring in amazing founders, mentors, and entrepreneurs to talk to our community of aspiring successful entrepreneurs, and we strive to provide the best online resources and content to our community to help them towards entrepreneurial success. So if you want to learn more about entrepreneurship and get updated for upcoming events, please like our Facebook page, and in order to connect with fellow entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs, you can join our Telegram group so you can network and ask advice from the community. So lastly, I'd like to go over a few items for those who want to have an e-certificate. So participants must fill out the evaluation form during the end of this webinar. So the link will be given at the end of the talk and will be open until 11:59 p.m. only today. So you must send a proof of attendance at this webinar. It can be a screenshot of this live and also a proof of your membership at our website. So it can be a screenshot of your account on Ace Commerce Philippines website. So in case some of you guys are not a member yet, then here's how you can sign up. All right, so I hope everyone here is already a member, but if you're not, you can just sign up at our website after this webinar. So anyways, that's all from me because I know everyone is excited to meet our speaker. So let me introduce to you right now, our main speaker for today is Miss Gemma Guerrero, the President and CEO at JustPay.to. So this webinar is perfect for anyone interested in knowing what to look out for and building their own startup companies. So everyone, let us all welcome and give a round of applause to Miss Gemma Guerrero. Hi, Miss Gemma.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to be part of this platform, and I appreciate being chosen as a speaker for today. You know, it's actually a tremendous effort to have a platform for empowering and entrepreneurs. And because these are very good resources for those who want to do their own startup or their own business. So it's exciting, and good luck to the efforts of acecommerce.org. So again, thank you for being here. I know it's a Friday afternoon. I'm actually calling in from the US, so it's very early morning for me, but I'm excited to be part of this experience and to be able to share my insights for everyone to at least get a better perspective of how to do your own startup and the challenges that one must face. So let me just give you a little bit background about myself. You know, I don't claim to be an expert in doing startups, but I do have some experience and expertise in the corporate sector and also being a tech entrepreneur. You know, I've been doing this for the past 30 years. I actually left Manila in the 80s and to pursue my university degree in the US. I worked for a family-owned company in Palo Alto in Silicon Valley, and my employer at the time asked me to manage one of their startups, and that's the first experience that I learned in how to manage a startup, and I learned a lot from this family, and also the opportunity they gave me to be able to learn on my own and empower me, especially as a woman, pretty much. So, in fact, I was very passionate about it, and within 5 years of helping with the startup, I was able to help them do successful joint ventures and project investment projects for around for different markets around the world. And I also married. I'm married. I've been married for 26 years, and just like starting your own company, it's very important to have a partner who's very supportive, who again will inspire you and give you the courage to do and make decisions, for the company. So it's very important when you find a partner in your business that you guys can really have the same vision and mission statement in pursuing your goals together. That's very important. So if I may, actually, I picked 5 areas of discussion which I think will help explain the challenges one faces when you want to do a startup. And the startup, it's not okay. I chose Philippines because currently I'm the CEO of a fintech company, a startup in the Philippines. But a startup can be in any market. So I would like to actually speak generally, and when it comes to having some specifics, I can cite examples about the Philippines. But in general, my topics would be, 5 key areas that I think an entrepreneur may want to learn from. And if you're already doing your own business, probably it's an additional resource for you to pick up on and improve, or just get a better understanding of moving forward with your business. So can we go to the first page of my deck? Okay, so this is the 5 areas of discussion. The first one is about knowing your stuff and making sense. The second is making sense of your business plan. The important thing as well is, being able to raise money. And I will tell a story about our startup company, JustPay.to, and of course, some of the lessons I learned, personally in doing my own startup, in managing other companies throughout my 30-year career. So can we start for the next slide? Can everybody hear me fine? I hope the volume is just right. So the first important thing is know your stuff. So next slide, please. Knowing what you know may not necessarily be viable. So you have to do research. You have to know what the market is. Today we are actually fortunate that there are so many resources that an entrepreneur can use. You can go Google everything and anything. You have platforms like acecommerce.com. You have companies who have a mentoring setup that they help with. They have internship programs. So having all these resources, I think it's important that you have to research and know more information before you dive into doing your own thing when it comes to starting your own company. So, I have experience with having a great idea and not really just going in cold turkey. So for me, that was a very serious learning experience, when you just think, just because it's a good idea, you think you know a little bit about the market, but with lack of research, it kind of handicaps you when you start your own company. So it's important really to know as much as you can when it comes to launching a product or a service. And then, of course, you have to know if there is a need or a demand for the product you want to launch, or it's no longer just having a good idea, because the most critical thing in starting your own is the ability to execute and implement the idea. So you have to find out, is there a need for your product? Is your product a trend? Is it a new concept, or is it something that you're just copying because the market is going, it's currently trending? So those are the things that you have to consider. It's okay to be passionate, but also you have to separate emotion, because starting a company is not for a faint of heart. It needs a lot of effort, a lot of time, and you have to be ready for long-term commitment. And then it's also important to know the competitive landscape. So that means who is the competition? And the market is always changing. We are now living in a digital age where trends are fast moving. Demands are changing. People are becoming fickle. So these are the things you have to understand as well. And if you're in the Philippines, this is something that I have to say honestly, that it's the innovation is something that needs to still pick up or develop or evolve in our country. We have a lot of copycats, but there are products that's Filipino innovation when it comes to design or fashion, but what's really important is to be the first mover. You have to have that advantage, so you can develop, which brings me to the of having a brand. Building a brand is also a challenge, because you have to decide on creating a relationship between your product or your service through a brand, through a tagline, so it stays top of mind. So in my own experience in one of our tech companies, we were trying to find a brand for this technology, a software technology. And we got help from advertising company, but none really stick. And the ones that we wanted were all taken for branding. So I suggested a brand, which I guess because the team didn't have any more choice, they agreed with me. But really, my the brand name I chose was really not good. So we had to rethink the whole thing over and over again. But so it's very important to have a brand that will stick to people's mind. Like Google, Apple. So that's a challenge. You have to make sure that it makes sense to what you're doing, and at the same time, it's easy to remember, and it's cute or sexy, and people can adapt to it, grasp the name, and understand it and like it. And then another thing that you have to know is the ability to scale. Is your product scalable? Do you have a growth strategy that will move the needle forward? So it's one thing to have a successful launch, but it's another thing to expand, to grow the business. So these are things that you have to have in mind prior to really putting a business plan together. So we go to the next slide to discuss the business plan. So if you want to raise money, this is the first step that an entrepreneur has to know and has to do very well, is making sense of your business plan. Next slide. So if you are decided on a product or a service that you want to launch, you have to understand, are you trying to solve a problem? What are the pain points in the industry or the target market that you wanna be able to solve for the customer? And then you have to match that with the solutions you're trying to offer. Are your solutions are they just a band-aid solution, or is it a long-term solution, or is it something that is really powerful and compelling that people have no choice but to adapt to that product or to that service? And then when you also make your business plan, you have to make sure that the numbers don't lie, that you have the right data, the cost, the operating cost, how you will price the product or the service, the budget you need to operate the company, even within the short term, is very important. And definitely your financial projections. You don't want to overestimate. At the same time, you don't want to undervalue the potential of the product or the business you want to launch. The next one is about defensibility. You have to create moats. You have to have deterrent. You have to be able to make sure that the competition cannot easily copy the product or the service. Again, I talk about first mover advantage. So this means that products can be copied, right? Ideas can be copied, but what's important is the ability of your company, of your business, that you have the infrastructure, the ecosystem, the pretty much the setup is there up front. So that way, if it's a technology, then make sure that the solutions are solid. You have the patents. So that way, it can deter or delay the competition from copying or even doing the same thing that you're doing. Now, the roadmap gives you a vision ahead of how you want to run the company. So it's important that you have a timeline, in the first 2 years, what you like to accomplish, and that's in the near term. And then, of course, definitely you have medium term and long term plans that you would like to also articulate to your team as you grow and expand the business. And ultimately, as the entrepreneur, you would like to have a decision whether, I mean, this is not an urgent thing, but this is also something that you have to keep in mind about moving forward in terms of an exit strategy. Do you want to run this business for forever, or do you want to get acquired, or do you want to go public? So that way, if you know what is your exit strategy, you can pretty much design your roadmap into how you want to accomplish your milestones and your KPI. So that way, you're prepared in having to develop all the other strategies that would fit your ultimate goal of being acquired or going IPO. Next slide, please. So the next one is about getting funding. And in the Philippine market, this is, quite tough compared to other countries. I think I shouldn't compare because, we're still in terms of venture capital. The concept is not new, but I think in terms of funding, the Filipinos are conservative. The investors in the country are conservative. They want to make sure that they are, and the mentality really in funding is about mature companies where companies are already making money. So the concept of venture capital, although it's being used and tossed around, when it comes to technology, it's very hard to convince a Filipino venture capital, unless you really have traction. So that's why I want to go to the next page, please. So before you do any going to outside investors, you as an entrepreneur, you really, the challenge is starting with your own network. So this is where I think your personal philosophy will reflect on how you do business, which gives you a network of friends and families and relatives and referrals to be able to convince them that you have the integrity, the commitment, the hard work, and the vision to do the business so they could support you, right? So this is very important, having that network, a support system. I mean, we started most of our ventures on our own with my husband. We started with our own capital, with our own money before I could go outside, have angels, believe in what we do. So establishing credibility is very important, not just as an individual entrepreneur or the founder of the business, but at the same time, the business have to have its own track record. They want to make sure that your ideas are viable, that you have the necessary infrastructure to succeed, and that you have a team that would make it happen. Which, in the Philippines, I mean, they looked at sales and revenue right away. And I feel that for the entrepreneurs in the Philippines, because I think we have a lot of um, brilliant, clever Filipinos who could, have have wonderful ideas. I can speak for the founders of our company, JustPay.to, but they're a bit handicapped because, investing on a vision or an idea is really difficult, especially nowadays. The dot-com boom is no longer existing. Investors are very cautious now before they put any investment on any new idea. So when it comes to your valuation, the company's valuation, it's both an art and a science. The science part is about the numbers. Like I said, numbers don't lie. So if you present a very good projection, cash flow, and at the same time, if you're already an existing, have some traction in sales, then you can show your income statement, your balance sheet. So that part is, you can quantify it, you can measure it. But at the same time, you want to get a premium because you took the risk, you took the initial risk to invest in this company, to believe in the ideas, to launch it. So that's where you can negotiate a premium. That's where the art part comes in. You have to be able to mix it together and articulate to the investor that you are worth more than what they think you're worth. So the ask, which is the money that you need to put in the business, is also very, very critical in your decision to launch, to grow the company. You cannot ask for too much, because asking for too much as well may change the directive, you may change your priority, because you say, okay, I have all this money now, I can do this. So sometimes you may lose focus. So the challenge is being able to have the ability to know in the first 2 years or in the first 3 years, you have this much money that you need to focus on the first step of the roadmap, which is probably to focus on the product and on the target market and on the milestones. At the same time, you have to have contingencies, safety nets. Like this pandemic really blindsided everyone. A lot of restaurants, not just in the Philippines, all over the world, suffered a lot. the tourism industry, then because of the lockdown and the social distancing and the vaccination, the quarantine. So, it's, we don't have a crystal ball. As entrepreneurs, you pretty much have to cover all the bases, but still you cannot predict what's going to happen next, right? And this pandemic is a very good example of how the business, or like mostly entrepreneurs, have to have the ability to be flexible, to move fast, and to be able to have options, not just in terms of ideas or how to tweak the product in case, challenges like the pandemic, or lack of money, lack of capital. You also need to be able to, like, if you need to downsize, or if you want to evolve into a different business with, similar to what, because my husband has done that, when the technology moves fast in 3D and VR, he was able to adapt to different applications, from SaaS to mobile app to pretty much having developing a UGC. So these are things that you have to be able to do, in case. So you have to be nimble. That's what I'm saying. You have to be nimble. You have to be proactive in a way, but when it is a reactive situation, you have to have the ability to move forward with the resources that you currently have. So next slide. Okay, JustPay.to is a company which was started by two young individuals. Well, not too young. They're in their mid 30s, early 40s, I believe, when they started this about 5 years ago. The founders of JustPay.to have a very compelling vision and a mission statement. With the country and the central bank wanting to encourage digital payments, to go digital, is very, very exciting. When JustPay.to was founded 5 years ago, there were not very many fintech players in the country, but today there's almost 300. It's it ranges from a payment gateway to mobile apps to wallets, to digital banking. And quite impressively, the Philippines is actually one of the fastest growing industry when it comes to fintech. The Filipinos are quite savvy with the internet, with how to use mobile apps. So that is a market that's booming right now, and we are actually unique from other fintech companies because our solution is really to create a unique payment page for every individual and business. What does it mean? Imagine every Filipino having their own payment address. So you can send money to each other without the need of a mobile app or a wallet. No need to download, or you don't need to top up your wallet. So it's just a URL which you can put on your phone. You want to pay someone, you want to pay your bills. So that is the vision of our founders, and they had to do their own initial funding from their family and friends. From that initial capital raise, they went to get a license from Central Bank of the Philippines. They registered. I think that the name is compelling as well. The branding, JustPay.to, which speaks for itself. It explains for itself. So what it is the ability for individuals to have their own payment address, or a company to have their own payment address, and they can send and receive money anytime, anywhere. So there's no need for it to download any app and to top up your wallet. So JustPay.to actually launched during the pandemic in 2020. And again, within the last 18 months of our launch, we were able to secure major contracts. We were able to get AutoSweep RFID, which there are other payment solutions that the AutoSweep is using, but our usage has increased from not having any marketing budget or promotional campaign to over 60% repeat use. So that's one of our KPIs. So The founders asked me to join as their CEO about 18 months ago to help them with restructuring, to be able to manage the growth trajectory, and of course, to be able to get funding to raise money. So that's why I'm currently in the US. I've been here since the pandemic, since the start of COVID in 2020, to be able to network and use some of my contacts in America to be able to push and get some potential funding for JustPay.to, because we have several applications. We're very excited. Imagine every doctor at the hospital in the Philippines, like St. Luke's, Makati Med, Asia Hospital, PGH, will have their own payment address. JustPay.to doctor so and so, or so the customers who go to their clinic, they don't need to pay cash all the time, because again, one of the mandates of the central bank is to convert the Philippine platform into a digital system of payment, not so much on cash. So we're trying to help in revolutionizing the payment system in the country, and hopefully we will succeed. It's very exciting, actually. Next page. Okay, I put down the topic as history lesson because I think history teaches us a lot. We have to learn from the past. And I think a very good example of learning from the past is similar to what's happening in our political landscape. So people have to learn from mistakes, just like in business. I mean, like I said, we invested in several startups. Some we exited successfully, some we didn't. So for me, I define success as not something that you can achieve from in a short time. That is really an exception. That's not the general rule. But the general rule is that, success is a journey. And in this journey, it's the difficulty and the challenges and the ability to stand up when you fall that helps you build the next courage and the next drive and passion and commitment to pursue it further. I'm not saying that everyone will have that perspective, but most often it is when people actually fail the first time that they can win and get all the success the next phase of their journey. So and once you have these mistakes, okay, no one's perfect, people make mistakes, but you have to learn from the mistakes, because if you don't learn from your mistakes, then that becomes a policy decision. And in business, you cannot have that kind of decision making, right? So if you have to implement a mindset, and that is something that you have to tell your team and the people that you hire, that it's okay to fail, but you have to learn from these failures, and it builds character as well. So once you have that experience of not succeeding, I think you can leverage that, because it takes a lot and it's humbling experience to be able to not succeed the first time, but you just have to keep going at it. So I don't know if I rushed the presentation, but I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Oh, all right. So thank you so much, Miss Gemma, for that insightful talk. And as someone interested in how startup companies work, I could really apply the tips and lessons learned today when I begin a similar career in the future. So now let's all have a quick 1-minute break before we continue to our Q&A segment. Thank you. Okay, so I know a lot of you guys are looking forward to ask questions to know more about the topic today. So we are now opening the floor to some questions. So Eliza will be the one to address you during the Q&A portion. So please please send your questions through the live chat box there on YouTube. So hi Eliza.
Hi everyone, I'm also a community associate of Ace Commerce and I will be the host of today's Q&A. I know you guys have a lot in mind and please do not be shy to send your questions in the YouTube chat box. So I'm sorry if it's a bit loud here, but some people actually sent in their questions earlier. So one of them is asking, what is your best advice or motivation to young entrepreneurs like me in terms of achieving our goals in business?
Okay, that's there's a lot there's a lot to be done. Okay, but first of all, you really have to for me personally, I think is the ability to be able to know if there's a need or a demand for the business that you want to do, right? I mean, there are a lot of ideas you can start a business with, but make sure that it can it has the ability to scale. There's a demand for it. It's not just in the short term, because after all, if you're going to put in all this effort, you want to make sure that the business idea or the product you want to start is capable of surviving the long haul. Like people won't be tired of it, or you should be able to tweak your product. You can go vertical, you can expand. So these are things I think that's the first thing you have to do as an entrepreneur, is find out if you are trying to solve a problem in the market, or you're offering a solution to some of the pain points in the market. Like Uber changed the dynamic when it came to transportation, right? I mean, they really answered a need for people to have an on-demand service for a car. And those are the things that go beyond, it's a good idea, but they were able to implement it. And at the same time, well, there's still need a lot of money to pursue it, because it's a very competitive market. All the taxis, all the buses, all the other choices for transportation. So these are some things that I think you have to know first. I mean, you knowing what you know is not enough now. It's a very competitive market. It's complex. It's people are fickle. Consumers are fickle. So you have to make sure that the product will survive the test of time.
Thank you. So, for the next question, what are the specific challenges, since we're on the topic of challenges of startups, that JustPay.to encountered during its inception, since we assume that it competes with traditional banking?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. I think when the founders first thought about this idea to get into fintech, the hurdle was going through the permits, getting a license, because 5 years ago you cannot operate in the Philippines as a fintech company without the central bank license, which is good, because then you separate the fly by night people, the boys from the men, so to speak. So that's a challenge. You have to be able to convince the central bank, and to make sure that you are offering a secure way to receive and send money. And at the same time, you have to have, the founders had to develop the infrastructure, because in order to be able to receive money, you have to have a banking partner. So that took, getting the license and setting up the ecosystem, getting the banks to work with us, and getting the initial merchants, the utility companies, Globe, Smart, Bayad Center, Meralco. So that took a good 3 years. And it cost a lot of money and time and effort. So really, kudos to our team, that they were, and the founders, they were able to do that despite limited capital. Again, that's what I'm saying. When you start, you have an idea, you have a vision. It's very important, but there are a lot of other factors that that will come up that you didn't expect, like the delay in getting the license, or banks having to vet you and make sure. So the timeline was delayed, which actually affected our launch. But we did launch anyway, and we're very happy where we are at right now.
Alright, thank you. So, for a fintech startup, how were you able to make sure that the security of your customers are well protected?
Okay, so that is a software question. So our technical team, because one of the founders is an IT person, he's a software engineer. He designs the whole algorithm. So that's the first thing we have to make sure is solid and secure, because otherwise, we won't pass the application for a license from central bank. And also, there's a third party that is required by the central bank, a security company that will check our system, making sure that we are offering our customers a secure system. And also, if I may add, JustPay.to is not a wallet. We don't keep the money. We are pass-through. We're a payment gateway. So it allows, when somebody, our URL is pretty much a solution for merchants to be able to receive money quickly from their customer. So we don't keep the money. Within 24, 48 hours, we give the money straight to the merchant. That's why it's also, the merchants love us, because it doesn't take long for them to receive the payment. So that way we have really the capital exposure for people hacking our system. All the money go out quickly within 24 hours.
Moving on, someone asked, how can we bring the consumer a unique product or service?
That is a tough question. A unique product. Okay, it may not be an entirely new product. Look at a very good example is the ube pandesal, right? I think for me that's very interesting, where home goods, the COVID forced people to reinvent how they wanna eat or work from home, right? And I think the ube pandesal is a very good example of how unique the concept. It's not, pandesal is not a new invention, but to be able to put the ube in the pandesal, make it tastier, I think it's impressive. So these are things that it's not like you're trying to invent the whole product or be an inventor, but these are things that I guess the person who first did the ube pandesal likes to eat, or she loves pandesal, so she probably wanted to tweak a new flavor. That is the same thing for the French fries. When the potato corner, about 20 years ago, they decided to, why not flavor the French fries, right? So it became a hit. The same thing with the popcorn now. You have flavored popcorn. So these are some. So I think when you're out in the market and you see and if you want to be an entrepreneur, I think you have to be very perceptive. You have to be very observant of what's happening in the market. You have to observe what people like, what people want, and probably if you see that, there's a commotion about this certain product, but what's missing in that product or what's missing in that service, then you can fill that gap. So those are things that you can start rethinking if you want to be an entrepreneur, or probably something that is close to your heart, that you're passionate about. That's a good start as well, right? But for those who are inventors, that's again, everything has to jive. In other words, the product has to be something that people will eventually use, right? And have a need for it, or feel good about using it, or having, when it comes to food, of course, eating and ordering it, right?
Okay, so moving on. So since you mentioned that networking is best for your company to grow, what, in your opinion, what is the most effective way in reaching out to customers, especially for newly launched businesses or startups?
The best way. Well, first of all, I mean, you have to do cold calls. If you have like what we did with JustPay.to and with other startups, you start with, you know, putting yourself out there. If you know that this product will be useful for companies, your target, first of all, you have to know who's your target market, right? So with JustPay.to as an example, right, we could have started with a peer-to-peer. In other words, going to individuals, asking them, hey, why don't you sign up with JustPay.to and have your own URL? But imagine that's 100 million Filipinos. That's very difficult to do. We need a lot of money to do that. So what did the founders decided? Why don't they go to the biggest utility company, which is Meralco? So just pay to Meralco. Now you can pay your bills just on your phone, just pay to Meralco, and there's a drop down where you can choose how you want to pay your Meralco bill. And you can just say, this is for my invoice, Meralco bill, so and so. And then you choose, you want to pay your credit, use your credit card, your cash, your wallet, or another payment. So our platform is a all-in-one solution that doesn't require you to download anything or to even top up, put money there. So my point is though, we went to Meralco, we presented. So in a way, it's a cold call, right? And then once you prove to them your value proposition, then it's a domino effect, right? So, but again, make sure that when you launch a product, you have tested it, you have done a little, initial launch to see what is you debug the system or improve the product taste or, change a little bit of the tagline, the promotional campaign before you really go out and try to launch in a bigger way. So then you have Facebook, Instagram, you have all this, promotional ideas that you can use using the social media, right? So, and you have to be very creative, very visual, because nowadays, people are creative when it comes to marketing their product.
They are. I agree. But on the same topic, do you know what characteristics should I, for example, as an entrepreneur, should look for in possible business partners?
Hmm. Well, that's quite, uh, I think it is someone who you have the same philosophy. I think it's very important, right? I think you have to have a similar value system. You have to have the integrity, the ethics, and the drive to pursue it. So, and also someone who's not afraid to say, no, you're wrong, right? You can disagree. You can agree to disagree. I mean, it's like being married. You have to be able to, support each other at the same time, be able to learn, not be afraid to learn from your mistakes and be told that, your decision is wrong. So but it's very important to have a partner who can, because it's a make or break for the business, because you cannot do it alone. You can probably have the idea, but someone has to be able to bring the support and the operational or the business side of the business, of running the company, right? So pretty much like how most successful companies have started, whether they started from the garage or from their homes, the founder always has a support system. So, and of course, you have to have a consensus. I think when you have a big team and you start employing people, you can't just have a unilateral decision, especially with management. I think it's very good you have to hire the best people because you want them smarter than you so you can do better things with the company.
So, moving on to another question asked by the audience. So, for them, it is their first time encountering the term exit strategy. So, how important is it? And how can we visualize an exit strategy if we are still starting a business?
Yeah, okay. I'm glad that you learned something from my topics. An exit strategy is something that you want. Okay, you don't need to have an exit strategy. But if you want a business that will expand and grow, and you can start a business at home. Even starting a business at home, eventually, if it gets bigger, you want to move outside of your home. You may find, you may do as you may sell a franchise concept, you may get a store, or you may partner with another company, right? Or you can get acquired. That's what you call an exit strategy. So it's really how you want to. So again, it goes back to my point of doing, you have to learn everything and research the things that you need um, when you plan something for yourself and for your business, because you know hope is not, it's a feeling, it's not an action plan. Hoping is something that you wish, right? But doing it includes having an exit strategy, because you want to know what will be in the next 5 years for you. You have to have a timeline. So whether you're starting a home business, or whether you are already have a good business, an exciting, you're a small or a medium company, enterprise, an exit strategy can be anything. It could be, you want to sell because you want to retire. That's an exit strategy. So, but in order for you to have an exit strategy, of course, things have to fall into proper spot, right? You have to prepare for it. It's not something that is an afterthought, because if you don't really plan on an exit strategy, you'll keep doing what you keep doing, and in a way, you won't evolve, or you won't really grow the business.
Yeah, I agree. So moving on, since you mentioned that things are different in making a company in the Philippines outside, so they are asking, is it more challenging to set up a business on other countries than here in the Philippines? And how can we and how can our company be unique in a fast change environment, especially locally?
Yeah. Okay. It's not a matter of whether it's easier to start outside of the Philippines. I think you start your business where you are, because you have to be there. You cannot be, I mean, unless of course you happen to be traveling in Indonesia or in Singapore, and you think that that market needs something that you can provide or you can develop, right? But you really have to start where you are, where you're located. And then the only time you want to expand outside of your premises is when you know that you have already proof of concept. The proof of concept is if your local market is already using or buying your product or service. At the same time, like JustPay.to on its own is a universal a solution for fintech, for sending and receiving money. It's not confined within the Philippines, but we have to do it first in the Philippines, because if we can do it in the Philippines, especially with providing Filipinos with their own payment address, then we know that we can go to US, we can go to Europe and launch it there, because we already have proof of concept in the Philippines. Because 100 million Filipinos, it's big, right? I mean, even if we get not even the whole 100%, even half of that, or even 20% of that, that's proof of concept that it could work in Indonesia, in other countries as well. So, and how, I'm sorry, the second question you're saying is, how can you be unique?
Yes, how can the company be unique in a Philippine setting?
Well, again, it depends on what you're trying to offer, right? Again, you have to have the ability to make sure that you have first mover advantage, that what you've invented or what you're offering, like, okay, again, we go to the basic, like our fintech solution. There are almost 300 payment solutions in the country. But why are we different? Because we don't have to download. The customer doesn't have to download any app. It's simple, it's easy, it's convenient. So those are things that the features that you develop for your product or the service you provide will be first mover. Like, no one is doing it. Of course, you have to be worried that it can be copied, but at the same time, if you make sure that you have created, a strong IP and features that is secure, then, you have the first mover advantage. And another way to be unique is the way you want to develop the brand. You develop the relationship with your customer, with your target market, right? Like, even when it comes to food, there's so many restaurants, right? But as a restaurant, if you provide a consistent food menu, standards of quality, then you will develop a loyalty base. They will keep coming to the restaurant. Or even the ube pandesal, a lot of people can do ube pandesal, they have their recipe. But if you have a different, it's the quality of the cheese that you use, or the quality of the flavor, or the quality of the bread, all these things will make you competitive, and then you will develop a following. So those are things that you can do, ways to be unique from the competition.
All right, thank you. So moving on to the second to the last question. What kind of product should be launched in the Philippines despite having surpluses from foreign industries? Would food be at a greater advantage or not? Thank you.
Food, okay, the first thing I know, and it makes the Filipino different from others, is we enjoy our food. We love to eat, right? So again, this is something that you can look into if you're a foodie, and if you've traveled, you can probably bring new food ideas from abroad, and tweak it and make it adapt to the local taste. So that's one way to consider entering the food market business, that industry. Or there are ideas that you can learn from when you're traveling, even the way, like, I think, like the cinema, right? I mean, now everyone is streaming, so probably you can do your own streaming idea for the Filipinos. That we have a lot of similar ideas abroad that was localized and has been very successful. So you just have to, it's not just, you have to differentiate about just wanting to do your business. I mean, everybody wants to be their own boss, to be an entrepreneur, but it's not. It does. The success is not based on just wanting it. Everything has to be. It has to be put together well, right? The product, the pricing, being able to make sure again that it is, people would want it. There are products that have been, concepts that have been used, and you know just tweaked or licensed, and it's doing very well. But there are products that has been there for a long time, like, okay, even in the fashion industry, Zara is very successful because the the designers, or the people behind it, the operations people, they said, you know they realized that in changing the theme every 3 months, fast moving, they were able to target all these young professionals, ladies, even younger, the teenagers, to be able to attract them with the different designs, right? So I think that's a new dynamic when it comes to fashion. So when they go every 3 months, it's a new design all over again. So I mean, not the same thing over and over again. So these are things that you have to consider when you want to be an entrepreneur. I mean, not just wanting to be an entrepreneur. You have to make sure that there's a need for it.
That's right. So for the last question for today, they're asking, what good habits should help me focus on my entrepreneurial journey?
Hmm. Well, working hard is no longer a plus. If with anything you do, you have to work hard. If you want to be successful, you have to work. That's a given. So that's not even something that you can brag about, that you work hard. In fact, it's more than, you have to give more than 100% of your time, uh, you know, a commitment to do work 24/7. So, you know, there are companies that can be built overnight, but again, that's rare, right? I mean, really, for success, for your journey into being a successful entrepreneur, you have to put in the time, the effort, and sacrifices. You have to make hard choices. So, and most of all, having the ability to uh, raise money is important, because you have to, for the business to grow, you have to keep funding. You cannot just internally grow. You can grow internally, but it may take time, right? So you always need some funding. And in the Philippines, that's a big challenge, to be honest, because I think, if I may suggest, I think your organization is something that, not just speakers like myself, but I think you should be able to have a platform where you can um, have entrepreneurs submit their ideas and be able to get potential angel investors, like a kickstart. But you can do something like that, because I think you're having several locations. You have Indonesia, you have Philippines. I think if you have a collective effort in trying to help entrepreneurs, not just with giving them like webinars and all that. Probably you can have your founders talk about getting investors, and you have a panel where entrepreneurs can submit their ideas. They can do a business plan, and be tested. I mean, that's one way to help the Filipino entrepreneurs, because we, like in my husband's company, we have mentored interns, Filipino who studied abroad. They come here, they want to learn about technology. So we've mentored them, right? We've also invested in small companies to help, like, my husband invested in JustPay.to. Just full disclosure, he was one of the lead investors for this company. So yeah, we need not just and the government can also provide grants for funding entrepreneurs, right? So there's a lot of things that we can do as from the private sector and from the government. But I mean, companies now are starting to do VCs. They're looking for innovation and ideas. So hopefully it will grow even more.
All right, I really hope so too. So that's all for today. Thank you so much, Miss Gemma, and I'll pass the mic back to Patrice. Thank you.
Right. So thank you so much, Eliza. And once again, thank you so much, Miss Gemma, for answering the questions and for the informative and insightful talk you have shared with me and everyone in this live stream. So with that, we want to award this certificate of appreciation to you for being our speaker for today. So Ace Commerce Philippines award this certificate of appreciation to Miss Gemma Guerrero for imparting her valuable insight and inspiration at the Ace Commerce webinar entitled The Challenges of Doing a Startup in the Philippines, given on this day, May 13, 2022, Manila, Philippines, signed by Fran, CEO and founder of Asia Commerce. So thank you once again, Miss Gemma, for being such an inspiration to me and the peoples of today's event. And we really appreciate you allotting time for us. And it was truly an honor to have you speak for us. So before you go, is there anything else you want to promote, or where can our audience reach you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to thank Alyssa. I think Alyssa reached out to me on LinkedIn. I appreciate her wanting me to be part of this event. I think that's an interesting effort from her part. Thank you, Alyssa, and thank you everyone for putting up this great event to help Filipino entrepreneurs learn more about how to do business. And having guest speakers is very important as well. So thank you for listening to my discussion, to my topics, and for everyone to spend the Friday afternoon with me. Thank you so much. And I wish everyone the best in their effort and in this journey to be an entrepreneur.
Thank you so much once again, Miss Gemma. So for our following announcement, our weekly webinars will continue next week, and we hope to see you again for our webinar entitled building as a student founder led by Sil Atienza, the co-founder of Taiki and Spec Studios, junior product manager at NextPay, and product manager of Mad It. So you can RSVP on our website for this events. Again, thank you and see you guys next week, same day and same time. So finally, for the last reminders for the participants who would want to have an e-certificate. So please do not forget to create an Ace Commerce account through our website, acecommerce.org, as we give announcement for future webinars where you can RSVP. So please do not forget to answer the e-certificate form that will be sent at the chat box. So friendly reminder that we will strictly no longer entertain concerns about e-certificate and create e-certificate to those who failed to answer the Google form. So please avoid making errors in putting your emails, since incorrect emails will no longer be our responsibility. So if you want to learn more about entrepreneurship and get updated for upcoming events, please like our Facebook page. And in order to connect with fellow entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs, you can join our Telegram groups so you can network and ask advice from the community. So that's it, everyone. And remember that the evaluation form will be closed at 11:59 p.m. today. So for concerns, kindly message us on our Facebook page on or our Telegram channel. So thank you everyone for joining our event today, and we hope to see you again in our next event next week. Thank you.